Welcome to the 5th edition of the CSA Ideas Lab series, everyone. This is the 5th edition of the CSA Ideas Lab, but it is our very first webinar of 2021. If you're new here, the CSA Ideas Lab is a regular discussion series focused exclusively on topics of interest to farmers and farmer support organizations. And in today's webinar, we'll be talking about CSA marketing strategies. My name is Liliana Teniente. I am with the Csa Innovation Network. We have a very exciting topic and wonderful speakers for you all today. Corinna Bench and Tricia Phelps will be leading us through a presentation on Surefire strategies you can use to promote CSA during CSA week and generally year-round. Okay. Today we'll be starting with a brief introduction to the CSA Innovation Network, and we'll be talking about a national CSA campaign that's underway, and we'll also talk a bit about CSA Week and how you can participate in this event. Then we'll move into our main session where you'll hear from Corinna and Tricia on best CSA marketing practices and how to use language in your messaging that really resonates with your customers. And then from there, we'll have a Q&A session so you can get some of your questions answered by our speakers. And finally, we'll end our time together with just a couple of short minutes to wrap up today's session. All right, for those of you who aren't super familiar with the network yet, the CSA Innovation Network is a national community of practice for farmers and farmer support organizations who are passionate about CSA. And our primary goal is to serve as a platform for sharing research, resources, and strategies to address emerging CSA issues. We really strive to generate idea sharing and build awareness of the value of CSA to consumers. And we have a number of different partner and collaborator organizations that work together to develop and expand technical assistance and farmer resources, which are all available on our website if you want to go check them out. And Tricia and Corinna are actually two of our fellow collaborators who help make all of this wonderful work happen. So one of the exciting projects we're currently working on is a national CSA campaign. We've been working with a marketing firm called Firebrand to help us create a CSA campaign through social media ads. And the way that we're doing this is actually through Facebook Ad Manager, which allows us to create the ads. And when people click on them, the users get redirected to a landing page that explains what CSA is, and it actually connects the user to a CSA farm directory that's specific to their area. And by doing this, we're hoping that this campaign will boost consumer awareness of CSA while simultaneously connecting consumers to local CSA farms in their areas. And we're super excited because we are going to be sharing the ads from this campaign with you all, which will be provided in the CSA Week package that we'll be mentioning throughout our time today. All right, so what is CSA Week? Simply put, it's a national event intended to promote CSA and encourage new CSA member signups. I'm sure many of you are familiar with its former name, CSA Day, and that it was created years ago by Small Farm Central. They created this event based on their research, where they found that the last week in February to be the busiest time for CSA signups. So this year, the CSA Innovation Network will be taking over this national event, and we're extending it to an entire week, which will be from February 21st through the 28th. Now, we do realize that due to the ongoing pandemic situation, CSAs have been selling out much faster than in previous years, but we do believe that there will still be some shares by the end of this month to be sold. And we also think that even if most farmers are sold out by this point, that we will have a really unique opportunity this year to build awareness of the value of CSA to consumers and hopefully reach new consumers and have them return in years to come. So today, I really want to encourage you all to participate in CSA Week by signing up for the free promotional package that we have available through our website. You can sign up to receive the package, which includes an array of shareable social media images, sample press releases, a CSA Hooks guide, which we'll talk about in a minute here, and a bunch of more other tools that you can customize and use to promote CSA during CSA week or really any other time of year. And with that, folks, I will turn it over to our amazing guest speakers, Tricia Phelps of Taste the Local Difference and Corinna Bench of My Digital Farmer and Shared Legacy Farms. And Corinna, I am passing the virtual mic to you.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. And I'm curious if you would put in the chat, let us know if you're planning on doing CSA week this year. You can just write yes or no as your response. That will kind of help us know if this is even happening. So let me try to advance the slide. Here we go. We're having a little tech. Here we go. So this is Surefire strategies to promote your CSA. And if that is what you signed up for, you're in the right place. We expect this to take about 45 minutes to maybe an hour, our presentation. And if you are here, you probably signed up, you probably hit the RSVP button if you are still looking to try and find more CSA customers. And I'm willing to bet that you're not quite sure how to go about doing that, or you're trying to find the fastest way to go about doing that. And that is what the problem that we are trying to solve for you today. We want to give you a roadmap to figure out, how do I go about finding new customers? And I also know, whoops, sorry, I have a little delay here. I also know that it's pretty common for farmers when they decide, okay, I need to go try and advertise, I need to find new members. It can feel really overwhelming because there are a lot of ways to do that, right? We can go and spend some time updating our website or trying to figure out the messaging that should go there. We've heard that email marketing works and we're kind of overwhelmed, like, what do I even write in an email? Facebook, social media, we're all trying to put the best pictures there and, oh my gosh, I don't know, should I boost? Should I do an ad? I don't know how to do an ad in the ads manager. And now there's this CSA week, like, oh my gosh, how do I build a promotion for CSA week? Is that the best use of my time? Which one do I choose? And you may also be asking, well, even if I decide which one I want to choose, like, what do I say in those promotional campaigns that's actually going to work, that's actually going to make them decide to sign up? That's often a huge roadblock for people. They just don't know how to put words together. So before we share kind of the 4 strategies, I want to make sure that we spend some time talking about this very important fact that the words of your message in your promotional campaigns really, really matter. In fact, it's the words that sell more than anything. And so we've got to be really clear as marketers. If you're trying to grow as a marketer and a salesperson for your CSA, you got to dial in to the words that will help people understand your offer, understand what you're all about, and say, I want to do this. And that's not necessarily intuitive. It does require a little bit of research. So I want you to understand that just as important as knowing the words, you've got to know who is the right type of customer for CSA. So attracting the quote unquote right type of customer really matters as well. And you want to attract a customer that's going to last, right? Not someone that's going to decide after 1 year that this isn't right for them and then they leave and you have to replace them. That whole customer retention piece is huge to master if you want to keep yourself sane. So as we're getting better at marketing, one of the ways before we start building a promo campaign is we ask ourselves, who is my ideal client? Who do I want to attract? And it's got to be this certain perfect person that's not ever going to leave me. And then how does that person think? Like, what are the words I have to use to reach them? So today, our goal is, yes, to share 4 specific strategies to sell more CSA shares. But in order to get there, we're also going to share the words that you need to say in those campaigns, whichever strategy you end up choosing, to get the right customer to take notice. So here's what you're going to discover. Number 1, how your ideal CSA client thinks. We're going to share that with you in today's webinar. What a marketing hook is and why you should even care. And then finally, how do you apply those messaging hooks in for different strategies so that you can use them right now, next week, or you can wait and do them during CSA week, or you can do them in a couple months. Whenever you decide that you want to promote your CSA, you will have these tools available to you. Now, I want you to stick around to the end, because at the end of the webinar, we're going to share how you can get your hands on our free CSA week package. This is going to have a ton of promotional templates in there to get you started. And a lot of the stuff that we're going to share in this webinar will be in there as well. So let me quickly introduce who I am if you've never heard of me before. My name is Corinna Bench, and I am a CSA farmer at Shared Legacy Farms. My husband and I run a 415 member CSA for an 18-week season in the summer. And I have been doing this for 13 years. We're a certified organic farm. I run the marketing and business administration side of the CSA. My husband does the production piece. I'm also now what I would call perhaps a CSA marketing expert or marketing influencer in the space. I have a podcast called the My Digital Farmer Podcast, where I teach other CSA farmers how to get better at marketing. I have a website, mydigitalfarmer.com, where I share a lot of resources. And I also have a pretty popular Facebook group called the CSA Marketing Discussion Group. When we first started our CSA back in 2008, we were getting retention rates of about 50 to 60%. And now we have a retention rate of 91%. And so I'm really passionate about helping other farmers figure out, how do you find that perfect customer? How do you cultivate them, grow those leads into buyers, and keep them around for years to come? And that's what I'm really passionate about. Now I'm going to introduce my co-host, Tricia. You take it away from here.
Thank you. So hi, everybody. My name's Tricia Phelps. I have spent the last decade of my life in local food systems, primarily here in Michigan, where I am, and as a connector along the value chain. So really building relationships with buyers and sellers of local food in various different business categories. The last 7 years, I've been with Taste the Local Difference. I'm the CEO of that company. And we're Michigan's local food marketing agency and media company. So we provide marketing expertise for farms, food businesses, all the way along that value chain that we were talking about just a second ago. So like Corinna, very passionate about supporting your marketing needs and helping you, helping you sell more local shares and do the best that you can in this year. So to get it started, let's see if I can move us along. There we go. To get us started, we're going to start with really the main concept. As Corinna said, that's like the make or break foundation when it comes to marketing, and that is knowing your audience. So you want to really have a clear picture of who your perfect customer is. Have an idea in your head of who they are, what they think, because not all customers are created equal. What's perfect for you might be different than what's perfect for me. So it's really important for you to spend that time and thoughtfully consider who your perfect customer is. And we're going to take an example here. We've got two CSA customers right here. Steph on the left, she loves to cook. She comments on our posts on social media. She volunteers out at the farm when we have volunteer days. She's committed to another year before her share is even over. And then we have June, pardon me. June on the right, who is great too. She visits us every week at the farmer's market to pick up her share. And this is the first year that she is participating with us. So now ask yourself, which of these customers would you clone? Which is your perfect customer? And like Corinna mentioned, and if you ask me too, it's Steph. Don't get me wrong, we love June. She's great. We need more of her throughout the seasons to kind of come and go as they please. But Steph, having somebody who is engaged, who's loyal, is gonna help you out in the long run. It's gonna make your job easier. So now that we know who that ideal customer is, it's time to really get inside their head. And we need to ask, you know, why do they buy from us? Why do they buy again and again? Why are they the loyal customer? What problem are we solving for them? You know, we all buy things for a reason. What is the reason behind Steph making this purchase? And what do they really want from us? You know, there's this box of vegetables is more than just a box of vegetables. So what are we really selling to them? And really understanding what that means. So those are really big questions. And you might be asking yourself, like, how do I find those answers? I'm not inside Steph's head. I don't know how to get there. And the answer is ask the people themselves. And surveys are a really, really great way of doing that. This is one of Corinna's Google form surveys that she uses for her CSA members. And you can do the same thing. These Google form is a really simple tool, completely customizable, easy to use, and you can send it out directly to your members. So why is this important? You know, the process and the questions are important because it's really the answers to those survey questions that are going to be the words that you use in your marketing. And those specific words are going to be how you attract more perfect customers like Steph.
Awesome. So one of the reasons that I value those surveys so much is because it literally becomes the place that I go and mine my marketing materials. So when I'm trying to figure out what to say in a Facebook post, if I want it to be a promotional post, if I'm trying to figure out what to put on my website to try and attract more of my ideal customer, if I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to build an ad, what do I say in the ad? What picture do I use in the ad? I go to those surveys for the answers to that, because the marketing secret, the way you find more of your ideal clients is that you learn to speak their language. So here's, you know, a picture of a woman, and she says something like this in her survey: it keeps me cooking at home more and working veggies into everything. Okay, that right there is the copy that you're going to lift out and you're going to stick it onto some of your promotional materials, and that's what marketing agencies do. They do this research, they find out the words, and they literally scrape them and put them on their marketing materials. And that's how we have to start thinking as farmers, because this is what works. So when you're doing that research, and doing that survey, you're going to start to see patterns. When you know, I get like 215 responses to my survey every time I do one, and I start to see common themes. I'll literally see the same phrases over and over again. So you're going to use those exact words when you build your marketing, and those words will find and attract more of your perfect client. And when people see those words, they're going to think, oh my gosh, it's like they're in my head. That's exactly what I'm thinking about. Okay, so this concept that we're describing here is known as finding the hook. Marketing agencies pay people a lot of money to do research on customers, either with surveys, or they do focus groups, or they get on the phone and talk to customers of big brands, and they figure out, how are people talking about your brand? What are they valuing? Why do they keep coming back? What do they love the most about it? And when we hear what those common themes are, those key concepts that your customer brings up again and again, those become what are called marketing hooks. And this is what marketing agencies lead with when they're building their marketing campaigns. So I want to just practice doing this real quick. This is a company, kiwico.com, that keeps showing up in my boys' Facebook, or not their Facebook page. They do Duolingo. They're learning how to speak German right now. And there are little ads for Kiwico that keep coming up for them. And so we follow the rabbit trail to find out what is kiwico.com. And this is something that we saw as an ad. And I want you to tell me, can you spot the hook? Okay, so Kiwico went and did a bunch of research on their people that are buying from them a lot, and they're trying to figure out, why are you buying? What is it? What are the buzzwords? What am I tapping into? And see if you can tell me, and I want you to write this in the chat. What do you think the hook is in this ad? So why is a person, what are they really selling? What are they really selling? And I would love to hear what you have to say, and maybe we can kind of take a look at some of the responses in the chat. I don't actually even know how to see those chat answers now that I've said that. So maybe somebody can yell out if anything is coming out. Are people responding yet? I'll give you a couple seconds.
We've got selling curiosity and creativity. Build something amazing from start to finish.
Yes, so this is targeting, that's great, and that is the answer. You're right, spot on. If I am a ideal customer, and I probably am because I wanted to learn more about this and I clicked on the ad, the reason that I would think about buying this for my 2 boys is because I want them to become creative. I want to, get them all curious about science and give them and entice them to want to learn more and have fun learning. So when I see a picture like this, wow, that looks really cool. Look at all those pneumatics and those gears. I can see my kid actually doing that. And I see that keyword, curiosity, creativity. And yes, that's actually what I'm buying. I do not need one more science toy in my kid's toy box. But what I do want is for them to become curious, right? So these are the phrases that came out of Kiwi Coast research, I'm willing to bet you, and they stuck it into their ads because they know that this is actually what customers are going to respond to. Okay, so I'm just showing this to you as an example. This is how we have to start thinking when we build our promotion campaigns. So what are the hooks for a CSA customer? I'm sure that's what you're asking. Well, good news, we've done the research for you, and we're going to share what some of those hooks are as part of this presentation. Now, the ideal situation is that you will take the time to maybe interview 10 customers or do a survey that has really good market-based questions in it to figure this out for yourself, because then you've got that raw data that you can work with, because everyone's CSA is a little bit different. My style is a traditional, you might have a choice CSA. You're gonna attract a slightly different customer with different values. But in general, we're going to share with you what some of these hooks are based on the research that we've shared, that we've received from like FairShare, the Csa Innovation Network, from My Farm and others. So let's take a look at what some of those are. And I do want to say, oh, I don't have that slide anymore, but there was supposed to be a slide here that says that we're sharing a resource with you at the end of this presentation. It's called the CSA Hooks Guide. And it's going to actually walk you through what all these different hooks are so that you can actually look at it for yourself and use the research inside for building your own ads. All right, Trish, you are working on hook number 1. Explain that.
I am. Oops, moving too quickly. So hook number 1, people want to be healthy. Even if they don't act on it all the time, they want to be. So the fact that CSA offers all these healthy vegetables and they can inspire you to eat healthier, that is the hook right there. That helps people encourage themselves to eat more vegetables, even when they're feeling on that day that they don't really want to eat that healthy, because they really do. Hook number 2, variety. So trying something new and discovering new foods, that's really the fun in a CSA too. People really enjoy that about CSAs. And an example, this is a quote right there at the bottom. I like being adventurous, etc. That is a quote from Corinna, one of Corinna's CSA members. And this next slide is how we transition that survey data into a specific message. So a great example of that is a testimonial post. I enjoy experimenting with new recipes and using healthy veggies I might not typically purchase at the store. With my veggie share, I get to expand the variety of vegetables we're eating. I've stepped outside of my comfort zone in cooking, and I've become more confident in the kitchen. So those words, that confidence, and for example, this, beautiful kohlrabi, those are the things that are going to sell that CSA share. And if it doesn't, I don't know what will. Hook number 3, freshness and taste. This message, I think, is a really important one. And again, I want to sort of showcase the difference here between the survey data we get. Like read that through right now, and you'll see in the next slide, I used almost her exact words in the order that they were given in that comment. So Quality ingredients matter. Choose a CSA for longer lasting, better tasting creativity in your kitchen. Simple as that. Basically copy and paste. And if you want something a little different, maybe, a picture of a mom and her son tasting parsnip fries, and you say, delicious kid-approved parsnip fries from the CSA farm to your belly. The same idea is that you're communicating the value and the fun of tasting something delicious, and that it comes from the CSA.
So the fourth hook that we know based on research, the fourth kind of key message that really attracts an ideal customer for a CSA is I value supporting local. This is really, really huge. And we've especially seen it this past season when COVID hit and people were trying to, go to get their food from the grocery store and there was nothing there. And they realized that the supply chain for the food supply chain is broken, right? And I know that I was certainly asking myself, like, oh my gosh, like, where would I go to get food if I can't get it from the grocery store? Do I know people? Do I have a local supply chain? And so people felt this pain just a few months ago, and it is still very alive and real for people. We need to take care of our local providers, our local businesses in general, if we want to stay strong as a community and stay resilient. So this is a quote, again, from some research. My local food system is in danger of disappearing. I need to keep my local food source secure. Buying local is my way of being a part of the solution. So we know this literally, I think this is probably, for at least within my customer base, this is the number 2 reason that I get when I actually go and count all the times these different things appear. It's the second most popular one. And so I really, really recommend that you lean into the local language. Now, hook number 5 is I want to know my farmer. And this is a little bit similar to the local piece, but it's a little bit more nuanced. This is a phrase that we see over and over again in survey results. And when I get on the phone and talk to customers, this is literally the sentence that comes out of almost everyone's mouth. I want to know where my food comes from. Or I don't know where my food comes from. That's why I wanted to sign up for your CSA. So that's a powerful phrase that you want to lean into when you're building promotional campaigns. They want to know not only what their farmer looks like, their name, how they grow things, but they want to be able to see the stories of the farm. That's kind of what all of this encompasses. Know the story of food and how it gets to their plate. And that's going to meet that special need for them. So any kind of promotional materials that you can provide that are going to speak to this hook are going to be very, very effective. So whether that's pictures of you as the farmer in your social media, or you should have a picture of you on your website so they can see what you look like and connect with you, or whether it's stories or videos of what's going on behind the scenes of how you're actually growing things, that's going to attract someone and warm them up and make it more likely for them to eventually purchase your product. All right, hook number 6 is I want my food ethically raised. So this is that whole environment piece, that sustainable living. I want to do my part to help Mother Earth. I want to support a business that's showing responsible stewardship of the environment. Okay, that's kind of in a nutshell what this is all about. So let me just show you an example of how you might take this hook and talk about it with your language. Remember, it's the words that sell. Yes, we care about the image. That's also important. That stops the scroll, but the words are what are powerful. So here's an example. Does organic matter? We think so. Even though it's not easy, there's a reason we became certified organic in 2017. We believe it's our responsibility to take care of Earth's soil and make sure it's around for the next generation. Join us. It's more than just a box of veggies. And then there's the URL link. Okay, those are my 2 kids and my husband standing arm in arm in the tomato fields. So this is just an example to show you how you can hint at the hook. And for an ideal CSA person who's going to, be that perfect customer, they're going to read that and go, yes, that's what I believe. And you want to attract that kind of person. Okay, so these are the messages that you want to talk about most, the 6 hooks. There are other ones, like I would argue that maybe community is another one, at least for my farm. But when you know what the hooks are, when you're building out your social media strategy or your website or your flyers or whatever that specific strategy is, you're gonna wanna talk about the hooks the most. Okay, I know you gotta talk about some other things, and that doesn't mean you can't have social posts about other stuff, yes. But these hooks are the ones that are going to attract, this is the bait, right? These are they're gonna attract that ideal client for you. Okay, now our CSA Hooks guide is going to be given to you as part of that template kit. And so you can look for that in the CSA week package that we'll talk about at the very end. We'll give you the link to that. But this is going to have in each section, it goes through each of the 6 hooks. And in each hook section, it tells you what is the hook, what's kind of the problem behind the hook. And then we have a page that literally gives you some quotes from research that you can use. And then the 3rd page for each hook will show you an example of how those quotes were used and applied in an actual marketing message, just to kind of help you see how this would work in practice. All right, let's give control back to Trish. There you go.
All right, so we've given you here a few examples, like Corinna said, of how to convert those hooks into messaging, but now how do you use those messages in action? That's what we're going to go over now, is some strategies for how to actually use those hooks to sell more CSA shares. So first, no matter which of these strategies you choose to put into action, you want to start with a plan and a timeline and a goal. These types of campaigns, a sign-up campaign really needs to be focused and targeted. And like Corinna said, there's, you can be marketing your CSA or your farm year round, but this specific sign-up campaign should have bookmarks, or bookends rather. It should have a start and it should have an end, because that's how people feel a sense of urgency, and that's how you actually get commitments from people. So CSA week is a great time frame to be sort of building your campaign around, whether that means it's the end of the campaign where you're finalizing the last of your customers, or it's kind of like a kickoff of you, jumpstarting your CSA sales. So strategy number 1, the referral system. We all know that word of mouth is like some of the best marketing you can get. And in fact, most CSA members still come from customer referrals. This is because we find value and trust from our social circles. We'll take recommendations and we value those recommendations from people that we know. So that's why that works so effectively. But as a marketing strategy, it's only reliable if you spend the time to engage it and encourage that from your customers. So here are a few ideas for how to do that. The first is creating shareable content for social media. So this can be, testimonials. It can be using those great hooks with a beautiful image. All of that is really useful information to share with your customers. It's a very simple thing to share something on social media. So the point is that you just have to ask your customers to do that. They'll be willing, if you communicate the value of that share, if you communicate how important that is to you by thanking them, next time they pick up their share, they'll understand that and they'll want to do that for you. So another example of how to use these referral tips is to collect testimonials from those members. So again, this can take the form of like a template with their picture and just a quote from them, either from the survey or something they share. It can take the form of a video, because those are really effective on social media. And it can also take the form of either a Google review or a Facebook review. And those are 2 really important areas. If you haven't set up any, or if you don't have any Google reviews or you don't have any Facebook reviews, definitely push a lot of your customers to be reviewing you there, because those are places that new people who maybe don't have an affiliation with your CSA share are going to look to get, to get the word from people who have experienced your share before. And that's a really important thing to really build up. The next is email your members and ask them to bring one person along. So with all of this, the strategy is give them copy make it easy. Allow them to literally copy and paste what you share, so that they can do that, easily without trouble. The point is that when you give them a plan, when you give them those words and make it easy, tell them what you need, then they will do it for you. And you really do just have to ask. You have to sort of lay out the plan, and ask, and they'll come along. As always, though, if you're looking for more participation, incentives work. So don't be afraid to offer incentives, whether that is like a kickback for a referral, or maybe during the sign up campaign, you're making it a contest where there's 5 action steps they can take to promote the CSA. And if they do that, they're entered to win some kind of drawing, or entered into some kind of drawing. All of that helps encourage these activities. You're definitely going to have people who, again, if you just ask, they'll do it. But if you offer incentives or rewards of some kind, that certainly helps.
All right, let's talk about the second strategy for how to sell your CSA. This one is probably an obvious one to you, a social media strategy. And I'm willing to bet that many of you are using social media to some extent, but perhaps it's not super targeted or not very intentional. And you're kind of wondering, well, what sort of posts work to help people finally actually convert? I know one common thing I hear from farmers is that they feel like a lot of people are just looking at their stuff, but and they may be engaging, but they're not actually converting into a customer. And they're like, how do I get sales from these platforms? Well, we recommend, first of all, that there are kind of 2 primary platforms that I think you should spend the most time on. And that is Instagram and Facebook. And you have a Facebook business page, which is a page you need in order to be able to run ads, an Instagram account, and if you have one, a Facebook group. Not everybody has that, but if you've been cultivating a public or a private group where not only your CSA members are in it, but maybe you also have people who are interested in CSA, they can also join. That could be a place where you are warming up an audience and sharing promotional content as well. So let's just start out by reviewing real briefly the anatomy of a good social post. And I'm sharing a Facebook post here as an example. And I just kind of have 3 things that I want to point out to you. Let's start at the bottom right there. The scroll stopping image that feels native to the platform. And I know you're probably laughing because you're like, really? You think that's scroll stopping? This post got a ton of engagement. And is it the most beautiful eye candy vegetable? No. I have some gorgeous photos that do that for me too. But this one, I think, stopped the scroll because it was bright yellow. And I think people were like, what the heck is that? Okay. Plus, my husband and Mike Metzger, to the left of him, are 2 personalities that are well known to people who follow my farm. And, you see 2 guys giggling and laughing, and you kind of want to go, what is this all about? Right. So one thing that you're in your social media strategy, as you're starting to think about what post should I create, you want to make sure that your posts have that stop the scroll ability, but they also need to feel native to the platform. So we don't want all of our pictures to look like they came from a professional photographer, right? Or we don't need to have like videos that are perfectly made by some videographer. It's okay for it to feel like it's homemade because that actually fits the style of the platform. That's how most people are using Facebook. So we want to blend in that respect. Okay. The second element is that hook. So as you're writing the words, remember the words are what sell, the words matter. So taking the time to figure out what am I putting with this image, that will really reap benefits. So we always try to lead with a hook, or we want to make sure that we're talking to one of the things we know matters to our ideal clients because we want to attract more of them. So here, the hook is probably like, I want to know my farmer. So here we're learning a little bit about who the farmer is, how he's a little bit goofy, but we also have a hook of community for our farm. Like people really value feeling like we're one giant community getting to know one another, finding that our sense of tribe. And so that is kind of the second hook that we're speaking to. Now you can't see the call to action, but a clear call to action is also a really important part. You want to tell people what to do. So don't just make a post, have all this nice little fluffy language, and then not tell them where you want them to go. So make sure they know, do you want them to hit the like button? Do you want them to follow your page? Or do you want to send them to go and buy? Or do you want them to download a certain lead magnet that's going to allow you to capture their email address so you can follow up later with an email, right? Tell them what to do. So those are kind of the three key pieces of a basic social media post. If you were doing an Instagram post, you would need to have hashtags. That would kind of be the fourth thing that I would say. Make sure that you have local hashtags that are going to attract people who live locally. All right, so I feel like it's really important to create a daily social content strategy. So again, when you're trying to sell your CSA, let's say for CSA week or sometime in the next couple of months, don't just have an open-ended like, oh, it's going to be open forever. Like you can have your stuff for sale forever. You can have the store open, but I encourage you to create an offer, a special offer that's only good for a certain amount of time. And now we've got to create a social media strategy for that set amount of time that's really going to try to drive people to take action in that period of time. So for me, it's like at the most 14 days, I think 10 days is a good period of time to have an offer open. And so for each of those days in that 10 to 14 day period, I'm trying to figure out what am I going to post about that's going to help people educate people about what the offer is, why they might be, if they're a good fit, it's going to help qualify buyers. It's going to answer frequently asked questions. So here's just a few examples of some of the types of things that you might schedule or put into that social media content strategy. You might spend one whole day, one post where you lean into one of the hooks and you kind of put your finger in the wound and you remind them of the problem or the desire that they have. Like, why is it that they might want to buy your share? So maybe you spend a lot of time talking about knowing where your food comes from in one of your posts. Okay, that could be one entire post. Another post could just be a frequently asked question that your customers typically have before they buy, and you address it in that post. And you schedule that in the calendar wherever it makes sense. You could have a story that focuses on one of the benefits of being in a CSA, and that could be the hook. That's the thing that you lead on in your call to action is, hey, go here to my site to join. You could have an objection. You could talk about an objection. So you probably know some of the reasons that keep people from pushing the buy now button. They're like holding back and they're like, oh, I'm not sure. Like I've got picky eaters, or I'm not sure if I can afford that. Is there a payment plan? Like some of those kinds of things might come up. Or maybe if you're a choice CSA, like, am I going to like everything that's in the box? Do I get to choose? Like you get to spend an entire post here where you address the objection that's holding them back and overcome it. Okay, that would be another example of a way you could build your social strategy. Testimonial post. You could have one whole day that's just a testimonial post that you put together, or a video where you've gone and videoed somebody for 30 seconds and you're going to put that up. Okay, so that the point is that you go and you collect all these different assets in these different categories, and then you're going to map them out into that 10 to 14 day period where you have the special offer, and you're driving them from that post, you're driving them to your offer page that's describing what it is that you're selling and what that special offer is for that period of time. Okay, and map this out in advance. Don't just wing it from day to day. Take 30 minutes and brainstorm what these posts could be and then put them together. So here's an example of using that hook that CSA is healthy for me. You can have a picture. This is one of my customers, Tammy, and she's cooking something. You can see the box vaguely in the background there, sort of cut off. But it says, I love my weekly farm veggie box. I'm definitely eating more veggies. I've stopped eating out all the time. I feel healthier and I know where my food comes from. Okay, so this is an example of where I literally took the words from the research from two different hooks and I stuck them into one, and I turned this into a promotional post. I don't even know if I turned it into an ad. I may not have. I think it got a lot of engagement though. So here's just an example of how you can take the hooks and turn it into a post in your social media content strategy. So we have lots of ideas for what your social media posts could look like inside of that CSA week package. There's, I think, a couple of different downloads that you can take a look at. It gives you image ideas. It gives you copy ideas for how you can word it, how you can even weave in language for CSA week if you'd like. So just be excited. We have templates for you just to get you started. Obviously customize it for your farm, but that will be a huge help. Now, I want to just mention here that you do have to pay to play on social media. I'm surprised at how many farmers still don't know this yet, but if you have a Facebook business page, I want you to know, if you're relying on people who follow your page, who become, liked your page and follow it, only 1 to 2% of those people are organically seeing that post that you put up every day in their feed. 1 to 2%, unless you are promoting it, like unless you're putting money behind it and boosting it. So if you're wondering why I have so many followers, but nothing's happening, it may just be that you're assuming that everyone who's following you is automatically seeing that stuff. That is not the case. So if you have, 1,000 followers of your page, take 1% of 1,000, and that's how many people are seeing it organically. So just be aware of that. You may need to actually learn how to boost or how to use Facebook ads or Instagram ads. And so if you need help, if your mind is spinning, you're like, oh my God, I have no idea how to use Facebook Ads Manager. We have some help for that. We actually have a free video training inside of that CSA Week package. That's too big of an ask to do right now in this training, in this webinar. But there is a gentleman Dan from Firebrand, who ran the CSA National Marketing Campaign ads for us. And he is walking you through step by step, showing you how to actually build an ad inside the Ads Manager and talking you through the strategy. So that will be available in that CSA Week package. You'll be able to watch that video training.
All right. Strategy number 3, send a press release. And I have a feeling you might be thinking this is really old school or sounds a little intimidating, but we're going to make it really easy for you. So the reason for a press release is kind of similar to that of word of mouth, because again, people trust us more and believe in what we're selling if they hear our message from someone other than us. So that's the point here, right? That's the thing we're trying to drive home, is get other people to talk about your CSA. So I often call this strategy third-party marketing instead, and that's because the first step is to gather contacts. And surely I mean media, and I mean press, like TV, print, and radio, but I also mean bigger than that. I mean, organizations like large employers or schools or friends of yours or advocacy organizations, larger groups that have an audience that they can then take your message and share to that audience that you don't necessarily have access to. That's the point of this. So the first step is to gather those contacts, put them all in a list, email addresses, names, put them in a Excel file of some kind. The next step is to write and send the press release. And this is just a message that they can turn around and use themselves. That's really the point of it. Again, sort of that idea of creating copy that people can copy and paste. So it's short and sweet. It's a single page max. And you want to make it personal, including those hooks that we've been talking about, but write it from the third person perspective. So third person, third party, just remember those things. And the last thing you want to do to include is a great photo that they can use. So make sure that if it's a photo that you have access to use, but maybe a photographer took it and you don't have third party access to use it, just make sure you're using one that that anybody else can share. So typically we want to send a press release like this at least a week in advance of a specific deadline, but earlier is fine too. And either way, we want to encourage follow-up. So these folks have a lot on their plate, just like you do. So don't hesitate to send multiple emails. They will not be offended. So remind them and keep your content top of mind for those people. So even in a second follow-up, I would, maybe share some simple bit of social copy that, if they're not going to take the step to share a story or to dive deeper into it, maybe again, they can copy and paste that social copy and at least share it in that simple way. And maybe if you are someone who is comfortable on camera or comfortable talking with a member of the press, then offer them out offer an interview, bring them out to the farm, let them feel more connected to you personally, because these relationships, media need content. They need regular content. They need new content. They are always seeking more of that. And so if you can build a relationship with them and keep yours top of mind, that will work in your favor into the future. And just like we've been mentioning, again, we're going to make it easy. So we're going to have a press release template inside the CSA Week package for you for download. That'll include some written copy that we already have in there, highlighting CSA Week in general, but also some segments where you can personalize it and share more details about your farm specifically, any deadlines, et cetera, and send out to your audience.
All right, our last strategy that we're going to talk about here is email marketing. You really need to email your list. I find that I make the most conversions and the most sales from email. Every time I send out an email, a conversion happens. So there's really two different audiences here that you can focus on. The first one are your current CSA members. And the second one would be, who are your leads? Have you been attracting people onto your email list who haven't bought yet, but they showed interest in the CSA product and they've been designated in some way, tagged as a lead in your email provider? So first of all, let's talk about emailing your current members. We sort of spoke to that in this first strategy, building that referral system. At the very least, if you don't do anything else, you should at least email your current CSA members and ask them to help you find one new member and give them kind of some suggested copy or, you know, something they could say in an email or in a post to help them find someone. Because we know that most new CSA members come through referrals. So at the very least, this is something you should do because it's very easy. So we've included a sample referral email template that you could email to your current CSA members. If you just need somewhere to get started, obviously take that and make it sound like your own voice, but it will kind of just give you an example. The second kind of email marketing strategy that I also often recommend is to create an actual promotional email campaign that runs for that 1 to 2 week period, whatever you've decided it's going to be when you run your special offer. And you're going to email people who are on your email list who are qualified leads. Now, if you haven't collected an email list yet, then this is off the table and you won't be able to do that. If that's the case, I would encourage you to start now, start collecting email addresses of people who show an interest in your CSA, because it does normally take a customer, you know, in my case, it's like 6 to 12 months to warm up someone through email. Like when they first get on my email list, they don't often convert right away. And that's pretty normal for a high priced product like a CSA. So commit to starting to collect email addresses because this is a long game. That eventually converts. So what does a promotional email campaign look like? So if you have a group of people, let's say you have 100 people or 200 people that have shown interest, they've raised their hand in some way, or maybe they've signed something on a clipboard at the farmer's market that says, yeah, tell me more about this. Or maybe you have some kind of a form on your website that collects email addresses for people who've been coming there and looking at your stuff. What would you say to these people? Well, once again, you're going to get out that calendar, and I literally use like a printout month at a glance calendar, and I have the dates like when my special offer is available, and I get a bunch of sticky notes and I just start brainstorming ideas for the kinds of things that I could talk about in these emails. I pick one topic per email, and I like to have them align with whatever I'm putting on my social media strategy for the day, so that if someone's in both places, they're going to see the same message twice. It's not a bad thing. So again, here's some examples of the kinds of things I might write on my little Post-it note as an idea. I might be like, oh, I'm going to spend one email talking about some kind of a story where I lean into the benefit of CSA, and I'm going to focus on one of those hooks, right? And then I make sure that I include the offer details in that email, the call to action where they can link it. But that's like one of the things. And then I just set that on the floor. I don't put them in order yet. I just kind of brainstorm. Maybe I have another one that's a story of a frequently asked question. And I say, hey, you're probably wondering this, XYZ. Most of our CSA members have asked that question before they've signed up, so you're not alone. Here's the answer, da, 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 da. And in the process, by answering that question, you show empathy, right? You're like saying, I understand that you have this question and it's normal to have this question. That's a good sign that you are having this question because everyone has had this question, right? So again, leaning into some of those hooks, that hook language. So that could be probably 2 emails right there. I'm sure you've got at least 2 frequently asked questions before people are ready to buy. You could give a free resource. So I have a ton of like downloadable guides and PDF guides, veggie ebooks that I've made on Canva. And I pick and choose from those. What is the most valuable thing that I could give someone that's going to help them go, oh, this is really helpful. Wow, they're going to like really support me as I use this box. I like this, right? And I might give away a free resource. That's the whole purpose of one of those emails. So that goes on a Post-it note as an idea. Maybe I have a testimonial that I want to share. Definitely do this if you're going to do a promo campaign with email. Pick out a happy customer story, a before and after story, or literally a quote from one of your customers, or a screenshot of a testimonial, and put that in your post and give some language around it. That could be on a Post-it note idea. Boom. I always have one email that goes out on the last day that's very short and sweet. It's like final chance. I usually include like a countdown timer even to create that urgency, like, hey, you'll still be able to order after this date, but the special offer is going away today. The bonus is going away or whatever. And that's always on the last day. But you can see on this little graphic that I made here, if you're doing like a 2-week run or maybe a 10-day promo email campaign, and you put one out every 2 days, like you really only need like 5 to 6 emails. And I've just given you what some of those could be. So I'm taking these little, these little Post-it notes, and then I try to figure out what makes the most sense in terms of the order. And I just map them out and I pre-write them, schedule them in my email service provider, and they go out to anybody who's been tagged as a lead. Now, once they purchased, obviously, I want to make sure that I remove them from the sales pitch. They don't keep getting sold to. That's kind of a small detail. Here's an example of one of my emails. I try to take a screenshot of it. I use a text-only email service called ConvertKit, but you could do this with, MailChimp or a fancy-looking template. It's just, text. I'm talking about one of the bonuses that they get if they purchase in that 10-week period, and I give a screenshot of what it looks like, and then I talk below where you can't see here what's going to be inside that. And the goal there is just letting them know, hey, we do a good job of helping you learn how to use this box so you're not going to waste your food. All right, so once again, we have tons of examples of emails that you might send in our free CSA week package. If you're freaking out and wondering, what the heck would I say? I'm not good at that. Take a look at that. It's going to help you get started. All right, so final reminder, CSA week, if you choose to participate in that, and I hope you do, is February 21st through the 28th. Even if you are already sold out or you're pretty close to being sold out, it would be great if you could just promote it for the sake of all the other farmers in the country who are trying to make a big rah moment about CSA. If you can find a way to talk about it a couple times during that week, that would be great. I want to encourage you to grab that free CSA week package. Here is the link. And I think we're going to drop that link into the chat as well right now so that you can just click on it, and you're going to go and actually have to subscribe with the Csa Innovation Network to get it. But as soon as you do, they will send it to you via email. All right, and what is inside that CSA Week Kit? Here's a quick list. I think this is our last slide. We're going to give you shareable images and clip art for CSA Week, but there's also images and social media post examples and templates that don't have anything to do with CSA Week, that aren't labeled that way. So take a look at both of those, because you may choose to do this a different time of year. There's that referral email template to send to your current CSA members. There's a sample promotional email campaign from my farm. I didn't give you all of them, but I gave you a few to just give you an idea of what they look like. That CSA Messaging Hooks PDF, super valuable, which actually gives you some of that research and those quotes from actual customers that you can use. We have a press release template. We have the Facebook ads training video link in there, and we've given you the ad sets for the national CSA campaign that we're running right now on Facebook on behalf of all CSAs everywhere nationwide. So you can kind of see those and feel free to use them. Look at the copy that they included with them to get ideas for your own. So here's the link, csainnovationnetwork.org/CSA-week. All right, so now we're on the questions page. This is the time for you to ask questions. Drop those in the chat. And while you're doing that, I just want to say thank you for joining us. I would love it if you would join my Facebook group, CSA Marketing Discussion, if you want to find a place where you ask questions and get a bunch of answers from farmers who are in the space doing that work of trying to get better at marketing. I also have the My Digital Farmer podcast. I'd love it if you would subscribe to that show. That's been around for almost 2 years now, so there's a bunch of archives you can go back to and listen. And Trish, talk about where they can learn more about you.
Yeah, please also follow along with us on social via Taste the Local Difference. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram as well. And thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your time.
This has been fun. I hope it's been helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Corinna and Tricia, for a wonderful presentation today and for sharing your experiences and expertise with us all. I hope that everyone feels more confident and excited to implement some of the strategies that we learned today. And with that, we will jump into our Q&A session. And so to start with our questions, I will go to 2 questions that were posed by Adrian and Debbie. They kind of relate to one another. And these questions are specifically for Corinna. Corinna, do you offer any incentives to increase survey responses? And then how often do you survey your members, especially given your high retention rate?
Super good question. I currently survey my customers in 2 ways. So I have one big end of year survey that goes out after the CSA is over at the end of October. And I get about 50% of those people, sometimes a little bit more, to respond. I do not offer any incentives to get people to write back, but maybe it's in how I word the email. First of all, I don't just ask them once. I assume that not everyone's going to open those emails. So I do send out probably that message, that call to action to do the survey probably goes out 3 different times. And the link is also put inside my Facebook group, which is a very active group. But when I ask them to do that, I give them some very specific content, or the pitch or the words that I use are, I think, powerful. I talk a little bit about why it matters so much to us that we get those, and how ultimately it helps make their experience better the next year. I even tease out a couple of things that are in the survey, like, hey, Kurt and I are really wondering if you guys liked how the pickup worked this year. Like we moved, for example, with COVID, we moved to a completely like contactless pickup, and was so great for us. We're kind of like wishing we could just keep it. And so I sort of hinted that was one of the questions, because that would be a major significant change for how we do it next year. And, I'm like, hey, that question is in there. I'd really love to know how you feel, because we're going to do what you end up telling us to do. So that's kind of a way to make them go, oh, like, yeah, I want to respond to that. And they, will open it up and take a look inside. But I've also like given wordage like, this is like your thank you note to me. We read these at the end of every year, and they guide our decision making for the farm. And they're also a great way to just help us feel that feedback loop and feel the love from all of you guys. So I feel like it makes people are like, oh, I want to do that for them. I want to make them feel awesome. And that's, I think, one of the reasons that we get such a high rate. What was the second part of that question? That was the incentive, and like,
it was, how often do you survey your members, especially given your high retention rate?
Yeah. Okay. So right now it's just once a year, but I will also say that I do like mini polls and surveys inside my Facebook group all the time on very specific questions. And so I also kind of consider that to be a form of research. And I'll kind of see what are people saying and responding in that way. And I also interview. I have like a regular system where once a month I'm interviewing a customer by phone and doing a deep dive 30 to 40 minute conversation. So that also keeps my finger on the pulse of my ideal client.
Okay, cool. And I'm seeing another question. This one is from David Alvarez. Where do you recommend we find resources for creating professional graphic art?
So I guess the one that comes to mind that Corinna mentioned partway through our presentation, and actually what we built our presentation on, is Canva. It's a free resource for creating graphics, for creating Instagram stories or Instagram gallery posts. You can create a whole suite of templates from there. And they've got a lot of great graphics that you can use for free too. So I would definitely recommend that as a resource for creating high quality content.
Yeah, canva.com is where you would go, and it is free. I used the free version for 2-3 years. Now I actually pay like $10 a month, so that I used to have to go to Pixabay and like download images, and then like I was just like, it's worth it, $10 a month, so I don't have to waste my time. And I like the paid version now, but you can absolutely get by with the free version.
And it's super easy to use too. Doesn't take a lot of tech savvy to go through it. So definitely a recommendation.
Nice. The next question came in through the registration form, and it's from Carrie R. How do you build momentum for CSA when the growing season is months away?
So this is where you really have to see marketing as a year-long strategy. It's not just something that you're doing here real quick for a couple of months right before you're getting ready to start your season. And you know, some of the things that I teach are like, you've got to build a marketing machine that's doing multiple different things. So I have a system built in place. I really look at Facebook and Instagram as primarily the tool that attracts my ideal client and starts to get them to engage with me and warm up. I don't see it as much as a place that drives to conversions, but it's where I tell the story of my farm, where I do videos. So in the off season, like right now, or you know, a couple of months ago when we finished the season, like I don't just stop all marketing. I still show up and talk about what are we doing in the winter time, or I come up with contests and challenges to try and keep people engaged. I might do shared content from the summer, like repost things that were popular or point people to blogs. Like there's things that you're doing to try and keep them coming back for more and seeing you as the go-to guide. And then that's sort of like step one of just getting people to know, like, and trust you, so that when you have an offer and it's time to actually pitch the offer and it's the right time to do so, they're more willing to say yes because they've been following you for a while and they know who you are and they like who you are now because you've taken the time to cultivate that relationship. So, you know, when I think of social media strategy, it's primarily used for me and my business as a place to warm up the audience when they first come into my funnel. I do use it to drive people to buy, like certainly, but that's its main purpose. And then once I get them on my email list, then I'm using email marketing to constantly every week send out an email to my list, keeping connected to them, sharing funny stories, sharing things about my life, once in a while pitching an offer. And that's what's really driving my sales. Trish, how would you answer that?
I was going to say similarly that it's kind of building up to that momentum. You want to make sure you're not silent the other parts of the year for sure. And then once you get to that, you know, 2-week period or so when you're making the real sell, they're listening to you then at that point. And that's kind of the goal. In
the online marketing space, they use a term called the pre-launch runway. And this is where they teach you that in the 10 to 14 days before your official offer actually goes live. So if you're going to have a plant sale, let's not even talk about CSA, but like if you're going to have a plant sale in the spring, maybe like 10 to 14 days before you're actually putting that stuff in the store and it's available to purchase, you start teasing it. You start talking about it. You start asking questions like, hey, what are you hoping I'm going to have in the plant sale? What's the thing you're most excited to grow in your garden, right? You're trying to just make them aware that this is the next question to be thinking about, so that when you drop the offer in 14 days later, they're not like, whoa, what? There's what? Like you've already kind of answered the questions for them and dealt with the objections and when is this going to happen? Like you've handled all that. So that's something that is another way to like build momentum. You start creating a content strategy in the few days, 7 to 10 days usually before you actually sell.
All right, thanks. Those are some really great tips. The next question is specific to marketing, and it's from Bjorn. And Bjorn's asking, what percentage of your operating budget should be allocated to marketing?
Yeah, I think the ideal is difficult to say because it really depends on each individual business. And there's a lot of things you can do for free.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that like people who don't have a budget for it recognize that there are a lot of things that you can do on your own, and you can, you know, use resources that are free to get started, to collect those emails, to start doing that work that is all free and all really important. But then, as we've said, there are opportunities where it is pay to play. So the fact that that you ultimately reserve some dollars in your budget for marketing is really my goal. I think honestly, if I don't really have a specific dollar figure in mind, but I think recognizing that there's value in marketing and that's a necessity is really the objective here, is like reserving some amount of dollars for marketing and recognizing the value of that, and recognizing that it does cost money to promote your product. And often, you know, you want to be selective about what you spend your dollars on, but it is, you know, you get what you pay for in some regard too. So it's important to reserve some budget for marketing specifically. But I don't know about you, Corinna, but I don't have a specific figure in mind that is important.
Yeah, I mean, I just did my budgets for this year and I'm trying to remember what was under advertising and promotion. And you guys, I don't spend a lot. Like I personally as a farm spend under $300 a year on Facebook ads, which is like, probably sounds ridiculous, but we're at a place as a business where so much of what we do is just word of mouth and actually selling to our current members. Like I make money off my members on the upsell, right? I just keep putting offers in front of them and they're the ones who keeping buying. So I would ask questions like, what are some of the things, maybe an even better question, or like, what are some of the things that you're spending money on in marketing? And the first one that comes to mind is people. So like my time as the person in charge of marketing, like that's, I don't obviously pay myself. I'm one of the owners of the business. So, but if you had to pay someone to do what I do in my business, like that is probably the biggest expense. So if you don't have someone that's spending time thinking about this, that's the big investment right there. I probably do about 10 hours a week on just what I do for marketing. But other things like I spend money on tools, things like an email service provider, lead pages, some of my different software tools that are helping me build subscribe forms that capture leads on my website, follow-up tools that allow, like email marketing, that allows me to follow up and build and nurture that relationship. So I have a really strong, robust email marketing system that I really lean into. Canva, right? Like being able to make beautiful graphics. That's where I spend the bulk of my money on marketing, is on the software systems. And I want to say that my marketing budget for tools is in the vicinity of like $1,500 a year for my size business, which is 400 member CSA. So it's not ridiculous, but it's, you know, my time is what I haven't calculated. And so that is probably the biggest investment.
Corinna, can you please write out in the chat box the name of the text message service that you mentioned? Adrienne was asking for it.
The email service, or because I don't use a text message service. If I know that some people do, and maybe I know farmers, if you're using a text message service to talk to people, write it in right now, because you probably know really, really good ones. I use something called ConvertKit as my email service provider. Before you decide an email service provider, though, you need to make sure that it syncs with your store. So that is super important. ConvertKit does not currently sync with LocalLine, which is the software that I use, but LocalLine has assured me that by the end of this coming year, they will have email integration in place. So that's kind of why I went with them, because I know that that's being added to the software. But yeah, a lot of people start with MailChimp. I think that Active Campaign is another good one. Drip is another one. Is that what you wanted me to type in? I'm trying to figure out how to access the chat. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it's ConvertKit.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, you all, for your questions, and Trish and Corinna for answering them. We are at a close for our time today, folks, and I hope you have all learned a lot. I certainly have. It's been so great to see you all and engage with you all, especially on the chat. Thank you so much for attending. It's so great to see our numbers expand. And if you could, please fill out the short evaluation form, which should pop up in the chat box, to tell us how this experience was for you. This really helps us improve these sessions so we can give you more of what you want to see and what you're curious about learning about. And as mentioned before, the recording of today's session will be emailed to you tomorrow. With that, thanks so much, everybody. This has been a fantastic webinar, and don't forget to sign up for the CSA Week package.
Bye, everyone.
y'all.
Thanks for participating.